Would you like to know some text messages that will revive some of that spark that you've lost in your marriage? Yes, sparking some of that lost desire and attraction is possible with the right words. I'm Brad Browning, and I'm a marriage coach and best-selling author. Now, before I get started in this video, I have to first tell you how to not text your husband or wife. Now, these are text messages that don't build attraction, that don't build romance or passion, and in some cases, these common text messages can actually make your spouse feel less attracted to you. So let's jump into some examples of what not to text your spouse before we get into what you should be texting your spouse. Starting with bad text number 1, the demanding text message. Now, it's obviously okay to ask your spouse to do something for you, right? After all, you and your spouse are married and you're a team. However, if you start demanding too much of your spouse, you could turn yourself into what I like to call a texting terrorist. Now, if you want to improve your texting relationship with your spouse, then you're going to have to give him or her enough space and not constantly send them a barrage of texts. It's extremely attractive to be highly independent in a relationship. So instead of constantly asking your spouse to, be your servant, try and take responsibility for things, even the little ones. And bad text number 2 is the overly critical text message. So texts like "you're always late," or "you don't show me enough affection," or "you're always watching TV." Those are texts that are just asking for disaster. You really always want to improve your spouse and support them, but sometimes we can show support in the wrong way. So when you criticize or belittle your spouse, you aren't encouraging them to be better. Studies have shown that telling someone how little value they have will force that person to actually believe that they're worthless. So here's a quick tip if you're guilty of sending this kind of, overly critical text message. If you want your spouse to improve on something or some aspect of their life, try using the word "I" instead of "you." So for example, instead of saying, "You're so messy and you're the reason why our place is always, so messy," instead say something like, "I'd like it if this room wasn't so messy, hon." And small changes in the way that you communicate with your spouse, just like that, can make a massive difference in your relationship. So definitely keep this in mind next time you feel like criticizing your partner. Bad text number 3, the argumentative text. So another way that you can turn yourself into what I call a texting terrorist is by constantly picking fights with your spouse through text message. So sometimes arguing through text can be easier than arguing in real life, but I really highly recommend against it. Why? Well, because texting allows you time to come up with appropriate rebuttals. So what you can say oftentimes can become, misinterpreted, which can then lead to an even bigger argument. So you don't have the luxury of showing calming body language by text, which helps keep your arguments from getting kind of out of hand. So the next time you have an urge to bring up a sticky issue through text, don't. Just wait until you're in the appropriate environment to have a serious discussion. Now, of course, this is only a handful of what I call attraction-destroying text messages. If you want to learn more about these marriage-murdering mistakes, just head over to my website, marriageguy.com, and watch the full free video presentation that I've got up there. Again, you can watch that after this video at marriageguy.com. And by the way, if you guys can think of any other texts that you should absolutely not be texting to your husband or wife, use the comments section below and let me know. You never know, I might even include your text in my next YouTube video. All right, now let's move on to text messages that you should send your spouse. Now, these are text messages that are designed to spice things up and make things interesting again between you and your spouse. But I do have to warn you that these text messages really aren't for all situations. So if you and your spouse are on the rocks, you're currently not on speaking terms, then in those kinds of situations, you probably shouldn't be using these text messages, at least right now. But if used correctly and at the right time, these messages can honestly work wonders to help your marriage. So let's get into the 4 messages that you can use to spice things up. Text number 1, the imagine text. So texting is a great way to force the person you're texting to use their imagination. So you can make your spouse feel a myriad of emotions just by sending a few short texts. So the imagine text is a perfect example of this. So you might say something like, "I can't wait to see you. Can you imagine how amazing it'll feel once I wrap my arms around you tonight?" Now, I know this sounds super cheesy and awful when I say it in the video, but trust me when I say that it won't sound cheesy to your spouse. Of course, you can also tailor this text, to any kind of situation. So feel free to use your imagination with the imagine text. Text number 2 is the gratitude text. Now, it's so easy to take your husband or wife for granted. If you've been married for a long time, you can lose sight of why you married your husband or wife to begin with, right? So the gratitude text is designed to make sure that your spouse knows that you appreciate him or her in a way that nobody else in the world can. So just to give you another quick example, you might say something like, I know I may not say this as much as I should, but I really want to tell you how much I appreciate you being there for me whenever I need you. It's one of the reasons why I married you. And once again, you can tailor this text to your specific situation. So try and really think of something that you honestly do appreciate about your spouse, and then say it in a text. Text number 3 is the deep memory text. Now, this is a text message that is designed to force your spouse to think about an extremely memorable time in the past and almost relive it. Forcing your partner to focus on these kinds of nostalgic memories will cause them to feel not only more attracted to you, but also it's going to encourage them to continue creating great memories with you. So let's jump into an example. You might say, do you remember that cruise we were on in Paris? How we went along that riverboat on the Seine? I always remember how amazing you looked in that blue dress that night. And again, obviously, you need to tailor this to your current situation. But this is one of my favorite kinds of texts because it's so much fun just to talk about fond memories with your spouse. Okay, and text number 4, the private text. Now this one is really fun. The goal of these kinds of text messages is to have a private conversation with your spouse while you're at a party or social gathering. So do you remember how fun it was to pass your friends notes in high school? Think of it kind of like that, but with your spouse. So for example, say you're at a party and you and your spouse are both having separate conversations with other people. Well, you could say something in your text like, that guy or girl is totally hitting on you and I don't blame him or her. Or you could say, I wish we were alone right now, and that little smiley emoji. And honestly, guys, tiny little text messages like this can really do wonders, and they can make your marriage feel a lot more alive. So I would definitely recommend sending these kinds of text messages when it looks like your spouse isn't having much fun at a party or event. It can really help to cheer them up. Anyways, guys, these text messages that I've talked about here are just scratching the surface. So if your marriage is on the rocks and you need help reviving it, then head over to my website, marriageguy.com, and watch the full video presentation up there. Because in that video, I tell you the 3 psychological strategies that you can employ right now to make sure that your spouse will forever see you as their one and only. And of course, if you're interested in hiring me as your personal relationship coach, just go to marriageguy.com/coaching and see my availability and how you can register for that coaching service. And that does it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you in the next video.